Welcome to Black Republican, Black Democrat. Tonight, I might be Jamar.
And I'm your other co-host, A.K. Kamara. How you doing, man?
Dude, can't you just be A.K.?
No, man, I got to put out the full name, A.K. Kamara.
I beg your pardon. You're a hot commodity around this. People know you in this town.
Yeah, man. You know, I got to rep the West African, man.
Oh, that's right. That's
yeah, you know?
Hey, man. Yeah, oh, you don't know about that. You're a little too young to remember that episode of The Cosby Show. See, you don't remember that? No. Okay. No, what's going on? I've been all right, bro. You know, I can't complain, and who the hell gonna listen any damn way? So, you know.
I mean, we do have a podcast. So
that's true.
You can complain as much as you want, bro.
Oh, but then I think we'd need like 3 hours of my complaints. I'd have to go from the studio to Jamar in the car.
Jamar in the car, yeah.
You know.
And we got to get some more of your Jamar in the car.
We are going to get some more Jamar in the car. You know what? Jamar's been a little bit busy.
Yeah.
And but no excuse. No excuse. We're going to get some Jamar in the cars because I think that, people love me.
People love you?
Okay. Well, of course they do.
Yeah, man, it's been a good week. For those of you that are watching, if you haven't had a chance, please head on over to our TikTok page. We have a TikTok page. Jamar and I are putting together videos, and we've got a couple now. I want to toot my own horn. I got a couple that
toot.
One that has 130,000 views, another one that has 31,000 views. But we'd appreciate if you guys head to the TikTok page. It's just Black Rep Black Dem. That's the handle on TikTok. Also, just make sure to head over to our link tree. If you go to our link tree, it will connect you with all of our socials, so you don't have to worry about what's our handle for Instagram, what's our handle for TikTok. You just go to our link tree /BRBD. And most importantly, when you're on that link tree, you can actually contribute to our show because it's not free.
You can do what to the show?
You can contribute.
You can do what to the show?
You can contribute.
Okay, amen.
And by becoming a donor and contributing to the show, it actually produces our show. So at this point, we want to get enough people to contribute that we actually don't have to pay out of our own pocket.
Yeah, because, paying these dudes behind this camera ain't that easy,
And it ain't cheap.
No, damn right it ain't cheap.
And on top of that, there still is a running special that the first 25 subscribers will get a custom Black Republican, Black Democrat hat. But we got to get up to 25 subscribers. Without that, then, we thank you for the support, but you don't get a hat yet until we get to 25. So share this video, whether you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Facebook, hit the like button, and continue to, support our show, support what we do if you like what we do.
And not to mention I sold my stamps, so,
2 for 1 or
no, well, yeah, of course.
You got with inflation.
With inflation. No, you still got to give the deal. I still get. It was $200 for $100. So if you see me at Cub, tap me on the shoulder. I might get some stamps for you. Let me stop for somebody at Cub here. Hey, no. I'm a little excited today. As you can see, I'm a little chippy today.
A little giddy?
Very giddy. Is that what the wife would say? Very giddy. And I am because, Justice Breyer officially but not officially announced.
The official, unofficial?
Yeah, that he's going to retire. And so, here, let me say this. Here's why I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
I think McConnell and what's the South Carolina guy name?
McCarthy?
Not McCarthy,
Kevin,
the other one.
Kevin?
Not McCarthy. He used to be homeboys with McCain. Oh, come on, dude. He's South Carolina.
Lindsey Graham.
Graham.
Okay.
The way they stole those seats from President Obama. Seriously, that was just bull.
Oh, they stole the seats. Okay.
Well, I mean, come on. I think the Supreme Court should absolutely be so nonpartisan. I know you have kind of somewhat partisan judges, but the process shouldn't ever be tainted, right? I mean, look how Clinton appointed Breyer. Breyer's conservative, right? He, rules pretty conservative. I mean, he did save Obamacare, but he really did, right? He saved Obamacare.
Sure.
I'm a little pissed that Ruth. See, this is not as conservatives. I'm pissed off at the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? Heifer, why didn't you retire during President Obama's presidency and left that seat open where we could have appointed a Democrat? I mean, excuse me,
a liberal justice,
a liberal justice to that seat, and we wouldn't have had half these problems, right? I want to see. For once want to see a total mixed. What is there? 9 justices.
There's 9. Yep.
9 justices. So I guess there's not.
Couldn't
be.
So
couldn't be even.
You guys want to have 15?
No, President Biden said no. He didn't want to do that. He could have. We have enough Democrats to do so.
Enough Democrats are talking about packing the courts, and it's funny because Breyer actually spoke out and said, Congress can do what Congress wants to do, but maybe this is not a great idea because then again, Republicans get in power, we're gonna be like, oh, okay, so
let's put 20. Let's make it 20. Yeah.
It's just craziness, but
they're like a choir.
It's funny that you mentioned RBG. Because
I'm serious though, she should have retired. Of course she didn't know she was gonna die, but bro, she knew she was sick and she was, getting up in age. She should have retired. Breyer, who is he, 83, 84 years old?
He's 83, yeah.
Right? He last year when there was pressure on him to retire, dude kind of stiffened his back and was like, "Screw you, I'm not retiring." But I think he thought about it, like, there should be the 25, 28 years is actually too long. But then, if that's long enough, you should make room for a new breed of justices to come.
I like the way how you're spinning it. What you're not saying is that you better get someone in there now because when there's this red wave that takes over in 2022,
yeah, right,
you ain't gonna be able to get anybody confirmed at all.
Yeah,
and I think what's interesting is that in that aspect,
the
red wave, man. When you actually look at how different justices have talked about things, RBG was very serious about. Her belief was, I'm going to do this, and I don't care what the weight of me retiring
or not retiring.
And that's her right because you appoint them for life. And Breyer said the same. I think that it would be a little bit, I guess, Pollyannish in your perspective to say that that's not a part of his consideration. That he's had enough people in his ear that are like, listen, if you wait until after and Republicans take over the House, like Biden won't be able to get anybody through that he wants to get through. So like maybe, you're 83 and enjoy the last few years. Like, don't you want to just, go and sit back and relax and not have to be, Supreme Court justicing it up in here?
Justicing?
Yeah. But that I think that's a fair aspect of the way that Breyer's looking at it is like, maybe he does want to have some of that time. But I think it speaks more volumes. I think there's a lot of activists that are like, yo, if you don't do it now and things are trending the way that they're going, Democrats are going to lose the Senate for sure.
Oh, please.
And at this point, for how many Democrats have announced that they're not seeking re-election, I think they're
Republicans.
It's up to 29 though.
That's not that.
29 Democrats have announced they're not seeking re-election, and just today, I believe it's either Tennessee or North Carolina. There's a Democrat congressman that because of the way that they redistricted, they split his district into 3 districts, and it's flipped. Basically, it's going to go from a D+5 to like a R+15. So he came on, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to see because I'll just get shellacked, so I'm done.
Oh, you mean local race is not?
No, U.S. Congress.
No, it's not that many.
Yeah, it's
not.
It's 28 or 29 as of today. And there's like 12 Republicans, but still, man.
Are you serious? There's no
29. I'm telling you, I've announced that they're retiring, dude.
Dude, where? Here in Minnesota?
In the United States.
Hell no. Dude, ain't no 29 Democrats announced their retirement. Are you serious? Get that list up, please. Find me that list. Yeah, where 29 Democrats have announced that.
See how many, or someone in the comments.
In the House?
In the House, in the U.S. House.
Please.
It's either 20, 28, or 29 Democrats have announced that they're retiring. See, look at up there, it was like retiring if you go back. In your Googling. But honestly, when it comes to
Democrats will be just fine. I think I love how you guys are so giddy about how things are going. I mean, it's year one, and we're going to be just fine. I mean, it will turn around. And at any rate, we're going to appoint a justice, a black woman.
Okay, look at sorry, 20. Go up a little bit, Tevin, just a little bit up. All right, 29 Democrats, 13 Republicans, dog. Yeah, man.
No.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said that you're giddy about the Breyers, because why?
We're hiring a sister.
You're hiring a sister.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Joe Biden out on the campaign trail said he's going to hire a black woman, right? Not hire. He's going to appoint a black woman if a Supreme Court vacancy comes open.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that I think is strange about that, right?
It's strange to hire a sister.
Yeah, in the same way that he's like, I'm going to have a black female vice president.
Why? His base is are black people. The base of the Democratic Party, the backbone of the Democratic Party are black folks. And it's time that folks realize that. You can't win locally, nationally. You will even your friend Trump, they will not win races without enough black folks. That is just it. And Democrats have to know, and a lot of them are taking us for granted, and we'll show you when you take black folks for granted what happened. But the base of the party is black folks. We saved Joe Biden. Rep. Clyburn saved him, literally reached out and grabbed and snatched Joe from the jaws of defeat.
So it's a quid pro quo for you?
No, I think that what it is time for folks to realize that black folks mean something to this country. God damn it.
So I obviously I don't care if Joe Biden wants to nominate a black woman. I just think it's strange that you're going to set and say, out of all the people,
it's time
that there can't be.
It's a black man on there, right? That's a black man.
Thomas, man.
Well, and
my boy Clarence.
You ain't lying when you say boy, but Clarence is on there, and Clarence has been there since the beginning of, I think, since Jesus was a small boy.
Well, no,
okay?
It was during H.W. Bush.
It doesn't matter.
And he was young. I think he was like,
even though
30s.
I'm not even going to get into what he did to poor Anita, but
dang,
he's been on there for forever, and I think it's high time that that we have a Latina on there. Is that what they call it? Yeah, Latina.
Well, if you want to go by your party, it's Latinx.
Whatever the hell they call them now, I don't care. And I think it's high time that we have a black woman. I love that. I love the advancement of women. I especially love the advancement of black women. If the thing about it is, you're not. See, Republicans are like, well, you're just what do you call it? What do y'all call it? Party name identification or black. I think even if white folks are pandering, they better understand that again, there are black folks that are up to the job of being a Supreme Court justice.
Well, then just pick one. Why do you have to? Why? That's
what he's doing. He's picking a black.
No, but he's specifically pigeonholing and saying,
Listen,
I'm only going to pick this. What if?
Why not?
What if there's a really, really qualified, Asian American woman?
We don't want her.
Who has the judicial philosophy that fits well with the other liberal court justices?
That ain't what we're looking for. We're looking for a black woman. We ain't looking for no Asian woman.
I think you should be looking
for
whomever
we're looking for a black woman. And if you want an Asian woman,
best with your philosophy.
Then when in 8 years when we're done, y'all can go appoint all the Asian women y'all want to the Supreme Court. Okay. Right now we want a sister, and we're gonna get a okay. We're gonna get a fox too. She's kind of sexy.
So honestly, in a real sense, if this happens, right? Let's say Joe Biden.
When it happens.
Let's just say that if it happens, right?
It's gonna happen.
If Joe Biden gets this person nominated, will that change the narrative and tone? Will you stop being like, well, this is just another proof? Like, we got Obama, we got a black.
Oh yeah, that racism is gone, right?
So I'm saying,
racism don't exist no more when you go to hiring Negroes. That means racism is gone.
But here's the part that makes no sense. If you're saying that this has to happen, but then you're not saying, well, this accomplishes anything, then what's the point? Because on one end, you're saying this has to happen if you actually want to show the true diverse nature of our country, but then you're like, but this doesn't show that we're not a racist country. That's the thing that I've never understood.
Well, how don't you not understand that America is a racist country, bro? I mean, you've seen it, you witnessed it. There's got video of it. There's historic proof of it. That's black and white. That part you should understand. So the fact that you're trying to advance,
is there no amount? So
the fact that you're trying to advance people of color into positions and roles that they should have been, that they haven't been because of the color of their skin.
But
and sometimes for females, their sexuality, their sexual orientation, it's time that you advance those people. When you have to enact laws that make you treat people like human, bro, that's disgusting. America's the greatest country on earth, but we still have flaws that folks refuse to look at, mainly Republicans, to look at a flawed America.
So 15% of the country is black, right?
I don't even know if it's that much.
It's about 15%. So let's say that 15% of our U.S. reps were black, 15% of the governors were black, 15% of the Supreme Court was black, right? Then at that point, would you say we're no longer racist? Like, is there a specific number that has to be hit in order for you to be like, okay, there's enough diversity that it shows up here? So that's what I'm saying. So if one of 9 justices one's a black male and one's a black female, that's more than 15%. Dog.
That black male is y'all who thinks like a white man who simulates to.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Clarence is like O.J. Simpson. Give me a break. There are Negroes. Stop. There are Negroes that when they get money, they get power, they like to simulate to white culture. Okay. Stop playing, bro. See, I call it like it is. O.J. Simpson wasn't black until after he killed Nicole Simpson. Then he decided to be black again. That's just the truth. We didn't cheer because they killed the poor girl. We cheered because finally justice had been served on for a black person. You had got James Brown, you had got Michael Jackson, you had got other folks. We were cheering because it was time for justice to be served for black folks. O.J. wasn't black till he came back.
Part of me honestly wants a black female to be appointed by Biden that gets on, because then now, forever, anytime someone's like, America's a racist country, I'm going to say, look at our Supreme Court.
Oh, stop.
2 of the 9 members are black people, a black male and a black female. And I will just say, for that
so
is
if I
enshrined in all of time.
If I move into an all-white neighborhood,
it's a higher
and I'm
percentage.
the only Negro, me and another one lives there, that's not a racist neighborhood?
Well, if the neighborhood has 100 people and let's say
and they're all white and 2 move in,
if there's 100 people in a neighborhood
anymore?
and 20 of them are black, I would say that would make it statistically more black people live there than the rest of the country.
If 2 Negroes move into an all-white neighborhood, and we know, and they don't run you out. We got historic proof that the neighborhood is pretty racist or has been racist. Does that no longer make that neighborhood racist? Of course, it does not. It does not.
Well, if they elected them, I think it would prove, if they won with 50% of the vote, I think, yes, it would go a long way.
Who got elected?
No, that's what I'm saying, though, because you're saying if they just move in.
I said move in, yeah.
But I'm saying the function of not just living there, but in the case of the Supreme Court and all these different aspects, as a conservative, I continue to look at these numbers and I say, if you have more people that are represented in an area that people elect someone into that is actually a greater representation than the actual population, then I think that disproves the racist intent, because
hell no.
At some point it has to, and for you, I don't know what it will ever take for you to be like, racism is done.
It's because it never will be done, bro. Stop that. You are way too Pollyanna about the whole thing. It would never. Racism won't go away. Let me say this.
So if the country was 80% black, ran by CEOs, elected officials, you'd be like, we're still a racist country.
America is a racist country,
and it can never outgrow that for you.
Listen, it can make you cut me off. Let me say, America has made strides in trying to change because it's been forced. This country didn't change and start treating black people because we should, because they're good black people and because Abraham Lincoln said we should. No, you've seen the struggle. Martin, Malcolm, Medgar, Black Lives Matter, and anything, the Black Panthers and things of that nature. It took force to change the way that the country treats black folks. Laws. So I always admit that this is a great country, but it has flaws, bro. I'm a great guy, but I'm a functional F-up. I'm a functional F-up. That's the country. So, no, I'm not. I'm going to admit what it is. America is a racist country that's changing. Can a racist change? It can make strides. You know, I don't know if a racist can change. I really don't. I've seen bigoted men change the way they think. So does that change their heart? I guess I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to say, can a racist change? the God-fearing man in me says that I would always I would try to give that person a chance to change, right? If he or she tries to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Absolve?
Denounce or whatever
okay,
that
yeah.
racist behavior and what they used to do. Okay, let's sit down and talk. Let's see your intent. Let's see what you do. But I mean, bro, we got to call it what it is. I mean, America's a great country. We have, greatest country on earth, but we're flawed.
And on that note, the last piece on this is that for me,
and we're having a sister.
In order to be able to have the conversation about race in this country, I think that there has to be a point, and I'm always curious, at what point will enough things change that someone's like, America's no longer racist? I'm not saying that we weren't racist. Like, that's a different conversation. But at some point, we got to be able to
You think America's no longer racist? Because we hired a black man,
I think,
and now we're going to put a sister on the Supreme Court. You think that makes us not racist anymore?
That America,
and then we got a black vice president.
I think that since America passed the second Civil Rights Act since '68, and took out the actual institution and got rid of redlining in the '70s and '80s.
Got rid of it?
Well, yeah, they
There's no more.
It's
so
illegal.
redlining doesn't exist anymore?
They can't do it, no. I mean, does
it exist anymore? We know that they legally can't do it.
The effects of
redlining. We know that they legally shouldn't do it.
The effects of redlining still exist, but the actual practice of it is illegal. So
right, but does that mean that they don't do it?
We could go on this all day, but we have a great guest today.
We do.
We do have a great guest.
We do.
And when we're talking about, post-racial versus are we post-racial,
there's a double standard. Thank you for bringing it up. You know me. I'm going to kick the door in, damn it. Because there's a double standard of how, talking about America changing, being a racist country, seriously. There's a double standard of how black folks are treated when it comes to their counterparts, white or otherwise. Prime example is in Hennepin County, the sheriff, Dave Hutchinson. A month ago or so, or 2 months ago, whatever, at the high speed rate of 120 miles an hour. And what city was he?
126 in Alexandria.
In Alexandria, Minnesota. Flying. Hit something. Flipped the vehicle. Tore the back wheels off the vehicle. Crushed the vehicle. Broke ribs. While totally intoxicated, 2 times the legal limit. All right. And it's strange to me that bunch of stuff. But number one, how they won't tell us what's in his blood. They only want to give us the urine part of it. And then you see this man has a bottle of liquor, THC gummies, his gun.
I think he had Delta 8 CBD.
Okay, which means thank you, right. That's even worse because that's real high. That's real weed in those. It's not you're right.
No, it's CBD still, but
Delta 8 gets you higher.
It makes you feel the effects, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Tomato.
Well, no, because okay. And so a bunch of things in the vehicle that if Jamar gets caught with his gun in his possession while just driving, not even flipping the company vehicle, I lose my weapon. I will not get it back. I go to jail. I lose my license within 7 days. And I'm suspended for a year. Now, if I flip my company vehicle, I'm getting fired. I go to jail. I get my license suspended, my gun taken, and I do time. Not Dave Hutchinson. Now, had that been a black man, and nobody's calling for his, it took forever. I think
Walls finally did after a
douche.
A month and a half.
I'm trying to be friendly here. He's a blowhard.
Yeah.
When John Thompson was accused of alleged crimes he wasn't even convicted for, you called for his resignation right away. Mm-hmm. You said that elected officials should be held to a higher standard. Mm-hmm. It took you over a month to call for this guy's resignation. And I didn't even see that, so that's news to me.
Yeah, he did. So basically last week, after the dash cam video came out.
Oh, with him and the officer?
Yeah, that's when he finally was like, oh, I guess at this point. And then they released. But, Rebecca Brannon, who's a reporter based in Minnesota, she's an independent journalist. She reported the story when it first broke out. So, I mean, it was all over the news cycle. And it's not like people didn't know certain aspects. But, yeah, that's kind of what Walls does, is that he waits till the last minute if it's something that's not politically expedient. But, like you said, he was pretty quick to condemn Representative Thompson. So, You
And
know,
so I'm glad that now we've got. I want to hear candidates that are running for that position speak up, speak out, and talk about it. So tonight's guest, Joseph Banks, is running for Hennepin County Sheriff. And so welcome to the show tonight, Joseph Banks. How are you, my man?
Oh, thanks. I'm doing good.
Good,
Glad to
good.
be here.
Welcome to. Hey, let's get right to it, man. Seriously, do you think that I'm over exaggerating? Do you think it's a double standard of how, if you were sheriff right now, do you think that there would be more people, especially from the Democratic Party? Let's call those creeps out too. Do you think people from the Democratic Party would be calling for your resignation?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they still be camped outside my house.
Of course, yeah. Right now.
No doubt.
No doubt, no doubt. So you've announced your candidacy for Hennepin County Sheriff, correct?
Correct.
Why?
Well, I've been at it for a while. I was in the race with Hutch the last time in Static, and I got in kind of late, and so I ended up getting like 1/4 of the county's vote. But one of the big reasons I got into it was, I'm just not seeing the performance from law enforcement that we should be having. And I said this back in 2018, that in situations like Minneapolis, where they're policing themselves, so to speak, doing their own investigations on their own use of force issues, that has never been put in check. And the problem is that the sheriff is the top cop in the county, which means it's his responsibility to make sure that the local cops are in compliance. And that's how it always has been for so long, that it's put the community at risk. And so it's very simple. The system is made with checks and balances if we actually use them.
Word. So, folks, okay, you ran before. Obviously, Hutchinson won. Tell us a little about yourself. I mean, who was Joseph?
So I've been in law enforcement for right around since June 1990.
So you were an actual cop.
I'm a retired police chief.
Okay. Oh, chief.
I've been a chief 3 times in the state of Minnesota.
Word.
So
you're eminently qualified for this position.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The thing about working in my last position at the reservation, the Lower Sioux Indian Reservation, is that it put me in a position to have to work with different federal agencies and balance both public law 280 and state and federal law. So I'm very familiar with being able to manage large situations, if you would. We had somewhere in the upward of a few million people that actually come through that casino area on a daily basis or yearly basis. So very familiar with being able to deal with different cultures and handle different challenges that rise up.
So fast forward to last year. If you're sheriff, Sheriff Banks has confronted with this huge civil unrest. What the hell do? You get the word that parts of South Minneapolis is burning up. The cops have been told to retreat. What does a sheriff do? I mean, what can you do? I mean, does Mayor Fry get on the phone and call you, ask you for help, or do you automatically supposed to do something? Because most of us only think of sheriffs as bailiffs in the courtroom, serving warrants. You might see them on the streets, but what would you have done? What does Sheriff Banks do during that? You get one of those calls last year.
Well, the first thing is to remember that uniquely enough, in most counties, the sheriff and the police patrol side by side. They help each other out on a regular basis. So in a
is that not the case here in Minneapolis?
Well, it hasn't been the case. It's now starting, but it hasn't been the case.
For how long though?
For years.
For years, really?
For years.
Okay.
I remember having conversations with the Minneapolis cops telling me that there were deputies parked a few blocks away when they heard the shooting call go out, and they didn't get the response. They ended up being the last one there.
So Joe, in that example right there, a sheriff should respond to that shooting call, or is that that's his or her job to do so?
The job is to keep people safe. And the sheriff, let's say this, the sheriff has always been the top cop. The local police departments were brought about to assist the sheriff with doing the job, but the police department's authority comes from the sheriff department.
Okay.
Right? So it's the sheriff's job to make sure that the little guys are doing what they're supposed to do.
What do you do last year? You get a call.
So the first thing is I would have never gotten to that point of letting the city burn, because you got to remember people were upset at the Minneapolis Police Department. So the first thing you do is you get the state patrol, the sheriff department in there, any uniform that's a different color than the city of Minneapolis, because we do want to offer people the opportunity to vent, right? But we want to take that heat away from the city. So I felt like in that position that the sheriff kind of left the city hanging, and it became volatile. And so once it got out of control for weeks, days, we didn't see the sheriff. I was down there in the midst of it. And I remember when the police department was breached, I was down there in the midst of it. And I remember thinking to myself, where's the sheriff?
Is this candidate Banks talking, or did you not see the sheriff?
No, I did not see the sheriff.
The department, or
I didn't see anybody from the sheriff department.
Really?
Minneapolis Police Department were in an uproar, of course. And then once the word came to pull those folks out, there wasn't any patrol of any kind for a few hours. And it was maybe, in talking to some of the businesses there, maybe a couple of days. As a result of that, because they just didn't have the manpower.
But your force, a sheriff's department isn't. How many? What's the force made of? Maybe 200 men and women?
Well, I think it's a staff of like 500 people.
Okay.
Now, not all are patrol deputies, but there is a mutual aid agreement between all of the agencies in the county, and so it should be very easy. For the sheriff, just like they did when they thought it was going to be riots, to form groups. It should be very easy to put up a command station and say, here's how we need you to help.
So would Mayor Frye had to have given you that call, or would you have already been putting a contingent plan together to help?
I think I would have been already putting that plan together. One, the mayor has experience with being the mayor. He doesn't have experience with law enforcement.
Right.
And so as a professional safety agent, if you would, it's my responsibility to look at and decide how we can keep people safe. And I think their thought was, we'll give up the precinct so that the police don't have to shoot anybody. But if we had gotten sure numbers there, people were just frustrated. They needed to vent their frustration. They needed a stage, if you would, to express their frustration. And the people didn't get pissed off from the police station in there. They got pissed off because you got cops who were unchecked on the roof taking shots down at people with less than lethal weapons. And so, of course, the more they antagonized the crowd, the more aggressive they became. But we have to understand, this was a boiling point, right? This was the last episode of incidents that were leading into this.
Agreed.
And so if the sheriff is working with the community, he's aware of the heat that's rising before it gets to that point, and we're looking for ways to bring it down.
I as a Republican, law and order is something that's very important, right? And we've had another candidate that's running for sheriff. We also had a candidate that's running for Hennepin County attorney. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, for you, you're sheriff, you get elected. What's your top priorities? Like, what do you want to make sure happens in your tenure as sheriff of Hennepin County?
So the first thing I want to do is work with the community to reduce crime, because people are just out afraid to be in the communities now. They're afraid to go out anywhere. So the goal is to work with families and the community and organizations to find ways to lower crime. And that's primarily going to start within the home, right? We're talking to people about identifying with their children and what their children into, to address those issues. Listen, there's always been more people than there was police. Right.
Yeah.
So the goal is, if we can get the children to care about themselves, and then they begin to care about mom and dad, then it'll flow outward. Right. This is not a police arrestable moment. Right? This is about education, debriefing, reprogramming, and communication. And so that's where we want to start, right there. And then, I've got some things in mind, such as, making sure, mandating that, officers have an insurance, a secondary insurance like we require doctors to have. You know, they have a malpractice insurance, so that offsets some of the costs, so the hospital's not spending extra bucks. We need to have that in place so that, you know, the citizens aren't putting an entire bill for the police department when those officers
Joseph,
make those mistakes.
that's gonna get you in trouble with Republicans.
So is this kind of like a qualified immunity kind of conversation?
Well, no, it's,
See,
this is a thing where it's a thing where, you know, the citizens are always footing the bill.
true
Right.
enough. Absolutely.
And so when you look at the amount of money that a city like Minneapolis has paid out in lawsuits,
and their bank is $44 million a year sitting there for folks to be sued.
well,
Money.
we'd like to make
people's
sure
money.
that the people, you know, even though we're going to end up eating some of the cost, we want to minimize that cost.
Okay.
You know, and so if there's a level of insurance that the officers are actually paying for themselves in advance, then that's going to offset some of the legal costs that we're paying right now.
But the sheriffs your department rarely gets sued or having. I mean, that's good to have. I think that's great. I think all police departments should. But your department, why is the sheriff's department though? I mean,
Well, see, at the sheriff department, it's not just at the sheriff department though. Think about it. The sheriff is going to make this a policy throughout the county for all agencies.
Oh.
So, you know, the problem that we have is that we don't share enough uniformity, right, within our agencies. Even though the state trains people as police officers to be uniformed across the board, we're all kind of doing our own thing within our agencies, and no one's kind of checking that. Right. And so the next step is then to assign a deputy to each one of those 36 police departments so that we're getting information in real time. Right. And so when we have use of force issues, you know, that liaison deputy should be the first one, you know, letting us know that we need to investigate that, not the police chief investigating it himself, because that's when we have lack of transparency. So we want to have that right there right away. And then you couple that with a community member that's also eyeballing that investigation. So you're getting that clear, you know, transparency.
You know, one of the things that I think has to be part of the conversation is this relationship that is, it's important for you to have as a sheriff with the county attorney, right? Mm-hmm. Because if your deputies are arresting people and then the county attorney is cutting them loose, I think that can be very adversarial. Now, there are some candidates that are running, and Mary Moriarty kind of expressed that she wants to have some specific things that she wants to enforce, that she wants to let the deputies know, whether it's in Minneapolis or it's in Hennepin County, that if this arrest comes from an X type of pullover, that her office won't prosecute it. So my question is, for you, do you see that as adversarial? If you say, here's what the law is, and the prosecutor's not, you know, gonna charge, how do you kind of work around that? Or do you feel that could be more adversarial than it kind of sounds like?
I think it's a two-pronger. I think we have to work with the county prosecutor, but more importantly, we have to work with the people. Remember, we're enforcing laws that the people want to see enforced. And we have to make sure they're educated in knowing that they have the right to change those laws, right? Law enforcement, we're just enforcing what you've put in place. So we want to make sure they understand how to make a bill become a law and change those things. And so that's when you're going to get a better performance from your court system, right? So, you know, when you look at a very simple situation like Minneapolis, how they got rid of the loitering laws, right? Yeah. That's an important tool because at some point we have these hot pockets where people are just hanging out with no way to enforce, moving people along. So when criminals know that, hey, there's a target hanging out specifically here, then that means I can do that drive-by because I know that they're just hanging, right? And so we have to, you know, change things with clarity so that they understand why we need that tool in place and make sure that it's being used properly.
Is there racism that exists in the sheriff's department?
You know, there's always been racism, but I think we've toned it down to biasness, right? I think everyone has biases of some kind.
Right.
To what extent, you know, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that there's definitely somebody within the agency that feels one way over here and one way over there.
I guess, again, the role Can you better explain the roles of what sheriffs does? I mean, you've been doing a good job now, but again, most of us look at you, we see you in the courts, again, delivering warrants and things of that. So we know the sheriff is the top cop of the county, correct?
Correct.
And he's supposed to work with, or the police department is supposed to work with the sheriff.
Correct.
Right? So is there other roles in the community that the sheriff's department should be doing, or is there a part of? Because I mean, you don't see them out. So
Right.
will you? So let me ask this better then. If you're elected, will you make a concerted effort that there's a better relationship between the sheriff's department and the communities?
Definitely. I think the biggest part is, one, we need to get more deputies in the patrol division. Clearly. We need to have more deputies active in the community, meeting with people, having conversations, working with the police departments, and also making sure that the community understand there's an avenue there to communicate. A lot of people feel that if something happens within their local police department, they can't say anything because they're going to have to deal with the repercussion from the police in their community. They don't necessarily feel they have some way to go with that frustration. And so it's important that the sheriff let them know, you do have a voice, right? And we're definitely going to follow up on whatever the complaint is that you have. There's somebody there looking at that. And then, most importantly, being active in the community, right? Being active in the community, because that's how we're going to find out what police departments are doing what. I mean, understand Minneapolis does have some issues with racism. There is some issues of use of force issue, but it's not the only city.
Right.
If you look throughout the county, I mean, there are people of color sprinkled throughout the departments, and some of them don't have people of color at all in this day and age. Yeah. And so this is a issue that we're dealing with throughout the state. We have over 12,000 police officers, and only 250 of them approximately are African American.
Have you ever been the first black in a certain police department, or as the sheriff, or excuse me, chief that you have been? Have you been the first chief and the first black chief in certain departments, or what?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Each time you've been a chief?
Yes.
You were the first black chief.
First and only for a little bit there. So when someone said that black officer did this to me, it was like for the next 10 counties, we knew who it was. Right?
Yeah, that's Cliff. That's Cliff. That was Cliff. Can we answer? Let's answer some of these questions together, because I think that they are kind of poignant. So, are you vaccinated?
No, but en route to get vaccinated this week. So
see, he's going to get vaccinated, right? Yeah. Okay, make sure you get Pfizer too. Don't mess with that Moderna crap.
Just make sure you talk to your doctor. Don't pull up to Super America and say, "Here's my arm, hit me up."
No, Walgreens.
No, I gave it some thought. Here's the thing, I was in the Marine Reserves and everything, and God only knows how many shots I got from the military. And then as a kid, we got so many shots too, and we didn't really know exactly what we were getting. But I've already caught COVID and was over it. And so at this point, I thought, well, I've already gotten it. Getting the shot can only help me, right? And then more importantly, when I had a chance to look at how it ripped through my household, the entire house had it in a matter of days. And there's nothing worse than seeing a healthy child go from being healthy to that cough, that rattling in the chest. That you're doing yourself a service when you decide, what, I'm gonna save my family's life, and I'm gonna save other families' lives. So I recommend doing your homework. Definitely do your homework, because it's going to affect everybody differently. And clearly, it sounds like this is here to stay. It ain't going
I always say two things. One, talk to your doctor, and two, I think it's important to understand, what the CDC is saying, what different studies are saying, and just actually
they are saying
earlier this week,
get vaccinated, stay your sick ass at home.
Earlier this week, the CDC on the 19th of January actually released a study that was done from May of 2021 to October of 2021 that looked at people that caught COVID and therefore had natural immunity, and they wanted to see, did they fare better against catching COVID a second time versus people that had never had COVID but were fully vaccinated. And what they found is that you were actually more likely to be able to fight COVID if you had the antibodies. Now, obviously, that means that you had to get COVID the first time, obviously. So it's just interesting. But I would say again,
saying that because people,
you talk to your doctor.
Those folks that got it, those are some of the unvaccinated because they think that
But
they're
that's
so
the
immune.
CDC. That was literally the CDC.
They
came
never
out.
said don't. They didn't tell those people not to get vaccinated.
No, they didn't say don't get vaccinated. They said still get vaccinated. But I'm saying that natural immunity was a better indication of how well you're going to fight COVID, from a second time versus if you never had COVID and you were just fully vaccinated. But I did have another question in regards to what you see as, one, you've been a police chief 3 times, right? So you've had to deal with use of force complaints, I imagine, right? Have you ever had to fire an officer in your department because of, conduct or use of force or anything like that?
Yes, I have.
So for you,
a white guy?
especially for you, especially being at the executive level of law enforcement and kind of translating, if you got a call and the call was this, this deputy shot and killed this person, how would your process look? I know it's hypothetical and maybe it's unfair to put you in that situation.
Well, he did it before.
But oh, he did.
I mean, he fired a guy that.
Well, he didn't kill anybody. But
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, here's the thing. There's certain protocols that are set up that you are expected to do. But the first thing you got to remember is to make sure, one, that the officer's okay and find out what you can, as much as you can, to what happened from his point of view. The second thing is to make sure, even though it may have been a justifiable shoot, that we're still reaching out to the family. I want people to understand that we still have to remember the human factor. Somebody lost a kid, right? And so we have to make sure that we're reaching out on both sides. And so that's the important piece. And then as soon as I have an idea that's of what's really happened, and we need to get that information to the community. Now, remember, there's going to be an investigation, but we want to make sure that the community is getting a clear as possible picture as to what took place. It's going to dispel rumors. It's going to dispel stress in the community once they feel they have a better working idea as to what took place, and that includes video, right? Because I'm a firm believer in it shouldn't take us 5 weeks and a signature from the governor to see the video, right? Yeah. The video is not making decisions one way or another. It's only showing what happened.
So you would release a video rather show the cop committing a heinous crime or anything.
Allegedly.
No, exactly. It's all alleged, but I'm saying you would still release the video if this cop was still committing the crime.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, not to put you in whataboutism, but if you were let's say the same exact scenario happened with George Floyd, and you saw that video, would you have made the same call that Arredondo made and fired those officers that quickly?
Expeditiously.
Would you have done the same? Or did you think that he acted right? I'm telling you, put on your police chief hat.
I think Arredondo did a decent job.
Ooh, decent.
But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Those people should have been arrested at the scene.
They should, the cops.
They should have been arrested at the scene. I looked at that situation and I think about the training that we teach cops. Once the cuffs go on, the fight's over. If the guy isn't cooperating, he's upset, claustrophobic, doesn't matter because he's in handcuffs. At this point, how much damage is this guy really going to cause?
Not too much.
Right? So at this point, we need to start evaluating, is his brain contaminated with a narcotic or something else going on medically,
which indeed it was,
that we should address. And so that didn't happen. And how much more would have regularly taken away from the situation to let him sit on that curve until the paramedics showed up?
Correct.
Why did you have to have him in the car so bad?
Especially if you've seen him ingest drugs, as he alleged, as Chauvin alleged.
Right.
Yeah, why didn't you? Why would you let the guy sit up? You seen him ingest. You said he shoved it down his throat.
So, but for you think it would have been a much better or stronger hand, or not even strong, but just you think the procedure would have been you should have arrested them, and again maybe at least
because you know what, I mean this is a hard pill to people to swallow, right?
Yeah.
But we have to be prepared to call each other out when something goes wrong. Right? The job of law enforcement is to protect people. You had a responsibility to keep this guy safe. New guy or not, you had that responsibility. And the reason why I say or not is because Minnesota requires that you have a minimum 2-year degree.
Right.
You're going to go through a skills training. So we're teaching you what you need to know to protect people. Right. And then in Minneapolis, there's an additional academy before you even get to the streets. So you know that you have a responsibility to do something to keep this man safe. Even if it was simple enough to going, hey, dude, get up. Right? That's all it took.
Right.
Get up. You know, when you look at the Asian officer and I look at his body language, in my mind, he's looking up and away and dealing with people, so it appears I'm not a part of this.
He's antagonizing people.
You're talking about Tao because he was across the street, right? And he was holding the guy in the
And he at some
gal.
point was standing right over him, though.
And,
Right?
He eventually got to that point.
yes, and put his knee in his back as well too. Look, we don't got much time with you. I want to engage with some of these comments, and then find out your information too, so folks can help you. You mind?
Yeah. So we had Craig Road, who put at what point with the African American population in Minneapolis and St. Paul realized that Walz is a moron, and that if they want safe neighborhoods and a place to build business, they need to vote GOP.
Wait a minute, I'm glad I wasn't drinking. I would have did a Danny Spit tape.
I think that I wouldn't call Walz a moron because
I would.
He's elected, and
What does that mean? You can have elected morons.
and I think that he does what he thinks is best, but I think he's a bad governor. I don't.
What the hell's the difference?
But a moron implies that he's not intelligent. I think he's a very intelligent person.
You know what that guy means. No one's not really literally saying the guy's intelligent. You're just saying he's a doofus.
And I'll say this, that to vote GOP, I agree. I want people to vote GOP.
I don't.
But the GOP needs to get out there and do something.
Which they won't.
In those communities.
They won't.
And they are.
They won't. When?
Man, there are people that are out there with McAfee, out there with
I was just with McAfee yesterday.
Tim Christopher.
Happy belated birthday, Rev. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
they're doing stuff. But yes, I agree.
Yeah, right. They're not doing shit.
That they should.
Next one.
Next one is, with the amount of African Americans not vaccinated, when does this vaccine mandate turn into segregation? That's what I've been saying.
Only in the minds of Republicans does it become segregation, because you guys come up with these foolish numbers of how biracial Americans.
I call it resegregation.
Dude, it is nothing has to do with that. If black
Biden
folks
segregation,
are,
Jim Crow 2.0.
I don't care if you're black, white, or Republican. If you're not vaccinated, I want you to probably again. I say this every week. Stay your sick ass at home. Yes.
Even though I just told you about the study, the CDC that is that here's the thing, okay? This is the thing. If the point of having the vax mandate is to stop people from dying and getting super sick, and we know,
and it's helping, it's working.
But if you already had COVID, and you are fully versus someone that's fully vaccinated. The CDC just said that the person that already had COVID that has natural immunity is going to be better at fighting a reinfection. So the person that actually, if I'm in,
I don't want to get it though. That's the point.
But you're going to be able to get it if I'm fully vaccinated. I'm in a restaurant and I'm eating, right? And then you're not letting people come in, and you didn't ask them, have you had COVID before? So I would still.
That should be one of the questions too.
I would still be against it because I think mandates are wrong. But that's what makes it nonsensical, is that you're also excluding people that are prior infected. And you want to know what's crazy? When I did some research, as of, and this number is old, this is before Omicron, before Delta, 148 million Americans have actually had COVID.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, it was
that, and that was before Delta and before Omicron. So that's the thing. That's wild to me. But thank you for the comments there, Craig. Thank you.
Joe,
for the
what do you think?
Well, I think we just have to get definitely more information. I think the people of color have a history of bad
mistrust.
We don't trust. Yeah. We don't trust the government because the government, like Republicans say, mess up a lot.
The government, they've screwed us. They've screwed us. They've done more than they've screwed us, and so we have and that's why I was telling you. That's why that number is huge. If black folks could trust government, didn't have such a mistrust of government, the number of vaccinated black folks would be incredibly high, because we've got so many black folks that suffer from underlying conditions, with the diabetics and all that.
And I'll take it a step further. If the way, like when Walz, this is the only thing that I'll give him credit for at the beginning of COVID, he tried to be very open and honest with people. And I think that he was actually bucking the trend that was coming from the Democrats. But then I think the Democrats put the pressure on him. And at the beginning of COVID, I was like, holy crap, this dude's going to, he's locking down his reelection, even though he's a Democrat. And I would never vote for him. I never did before. I never will. But then he started to change. So I think it adds to that hesitancy. I think that the way that especially Democrats came across with handling the vaccination information and the COVID information, I think that they lost the trust. And I think that black people in general, they have a higher, like our antennas, our radar is looking for the BS. And when things ain't starting to make sense, we're like, oh, hell nah, you ain't going near me. And you know this. You know, when you were doing the mobile COVID stuff, people would come up and they would be saying all types of stuff like, I don't want that. Like, you know, I don't even want to get tested because if I get tested, then they'll know something about me.
Yeah, some folks don't want to know their status.
But,
it highlights.
What are they putting in it? I mean, are they really coming out? Because I haven't heard much about it. But I mean, are they actually saying what is in the shot? Because I think a lot of people are more concerned, like, kind of what's in it.
Yeah, most black folks think it's chip.
So this is why I say talk to your doctor. When you talk to a doctor in some of these vaccination sites, they actually give you a breakdown and it shows you what's in it, right? Because there are people that don't want to have any type of vaccine that uses fetal cell lines, right? And so there's these different aspects because they're pro-life.
I mean, what do you call it? Fetal what?
Fetal cell lines.
That's the whitest Republicanist crap I've heard in my life.
I know a lot of black pro-life people that won't get vaccinated because of that reason.
Those Negroes that are pro-life probably got white spouses or something.
We had Dan Ackerman asked, how does Jamar feel about reform via jail? If a racist can't change, can anyone?
That's a hard one. Again, I tried to answer that earlier. And sincerely, I don't know if a racist can change his or her heart, right? I don't know.
So to you, it's a matter of the heart.
I think it's a matter. Yes, absolutely. Because racism is a learned behavior. When you look at two, right?
No one's born racist.
I don't think so, right? When you look at two black and white kids, how nice and how they play together, or how they've missed each other's video was a video that went viral. Of
you mean just like following my life growing up? You mean growing up in North Dakota, that's 90% white, 7% like in Devil's Lake, 90% white at the time, like in 2000. And the only reason I know this because I literally just looked this up. 90% white in 2000 census, 7% Native American, 0.22% black, and when you actually work the math out, 16 black people, my family accounted
for like 8 of them.
For 5 of them.
5 of them, okay.
Five of like the 16.
Okay.
So yeah, I agree. It 100% is a learned behavior.
It's a learned behavior
because it's a matter of the heart. There's that black comedian who, like, I cannot remember his name, is like David something, and he made this documentary, went around, and he befriended KKK members, literal KKK members, and basically got them to turn away from the KKK, and I think his number was like 114 actual KKK members turned away after this black man went into their lives, befriended them, and was like, you know, it's a crazy thing to imagine, but I think that's
a good thing if their heart truly changed, though, right? I mean, you can say anything in front of a camera. I usually do.
No, but I'm saying that these are people that became this dude's friends, like. And because they didn't realize, they thought like black people, because they were misinformed, right? They thought that black people literally were different, like, and so like he would be
aliens or something,
right? Because they just weren't exposed to it, right? But I think that's a I don't know.
What's the question
about the reform?
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's the question about? What was that?
So it's basically asking, do you think that jail is a tool of reform?
No, I think. Listen, sure. I'm sorry. For me, I think that it can be, but I don't think what happens there, they are, let me just synopsize them real quick. I think too many black folks are imprisoned for the color of their skin and not the crime that they commit. I think if you put real reforms in the prison systems, you can reform some of these guys, but most of these cats that you put in jail, they're not reforming them because you can be rehabilitated. I'm going
to say something controversial. I believe that the problem with our jail system is that the people that go to jail for actual crimes that either led to someone being harmed are treated too leniently. So personally, I think there should be kind of like a hierarchy of when you go to prison. I know that they have point systems and there's like lower security, higher security, but I personally don't think that that jail should be reformative. I think that there needs to be a separate system of reform, and jail should be nasty and mean to go to. And I say this as someone whose father was in the state penitentiary in North Dakota for a drug charge. And I remember, him calling up and going through the East Bay magazine to order him shoes and TV and stuff like that.
That's old school.
And to me, I think that's terrible. I think that jail should be actually worse. I don't mean inhumane, but I
But that's most of the time what it has been. It's become inhumane.
But I think that reform is.
But don't you
too
think
much of that.
if you imprison me, don't you think you should reform me?
Well, you know what? Look, it's called a correction system for a reason.
Thank you.
And they're supposed to help you get things correct and realize you're wrong. The problem with that is that historically, it's been disproportionately people of color, and so unfortunately, my policy or my philosophy of what I've always saying is, is this an arrestable moment or a teachable moment, right? We know we can arrest you for this, but should we? Is there something we can do, defer up to help you not have that label of being a felon? Because we know how it affects your future, right? And then the second piece is, if we're going to call it a correction system, then once I'm done with that issue, then I should be allowed to come back and have that fresh start. And so that doesn't happen.
Sure, yeah. So I think that this is twofold, because I do believe that once you've done the time, you should be allowed to reintegrate into society. But this is where my issue with this whole reform aspect is that when you look at recidivism rates, right, especially for certain types of
pretty
crime,
high.
It's super high. And again, I'm not saying we go back to beating people and things like that, but recidivism rates used to be a lot lower when jails were much more harsh. So I think that there's a fairer middle ground that I think that you can find. And then, I've heard people talk about like the system that they have in, I think, Finland, or like in European, it's like living in like a studio.
We want to go back to
apartment.
1963 or two, or what do you mean?
Put them on the chain, man. Make them out there, slamming building roads and stuff.
I'm glad you're not running for sheriff. Joseph, where can folks go to find out where they can help you, where they can donate, help?
They can go to my webpage at banksforsheriff.com, which is BANKS, the number 4, sheriff.com. On there, click on and can donate there. We have the Cash App flyers that are around, so they can just scan it with their phone. It's also on the
Flip
website.
it right there.
Oh, nice, yeah.
You can scan this QR code in order to donate to banksforsheriff.com.
What's the Cash App tag, the handle on it?
Banks for Sheriff.
Banks for Sheriff.
Cool.
So you can go there.
Scan the QR code.
Or you can, if you come here we're out door to door too, so we have these nice little brochures you fill out, and you can donate that way as
remission
well.
slips, okay.
And then, of course, we throw you in a nice picture of me.
Suited and booted.
That's right.
So, closing here, are you asking or seeking for any debates with you and Sheriff coming up? I mean, did y'all have any before?
We had one before with the League of Minnesota Voters, and I think Dave was the only one who showed up then. Stanek didn't come out. But I'm definitely looking for, chances to talk with candidates. In fact, I'm going to be reaching out to them anyway, I like to get a feel for everybody's direction in which they're trying to go. I think
we're going to try to put one together.
Yeah, it'd be cool because Jai is actually a friend of the show, friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know him, Joe?
You know Jai at all?
You know what? I've done the homework on Jai. I haven't met him yet.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
But I did.
Yeah, that'd be cool if we could get
absolutely.
We could at least get. I don't know if Hutch will ever come on, but get you and Jai on. You guys can have conversations. That'd be cool.
No, absolutely. Well, again, I think now you got my wheels spinning. We're gonna try to. We just need to.
And one last thing. Don asked another question. He said, "I asked about the change because if crime is in the heart too, can you change a heart? Because you said that racism is in the heart." Right, so if someone commits a crime in which they did a horrendous thing, the question is, can they change too? And that's
spoken
fair.
and acts like a true Republican.
Thank you for the questions for sure.
Listen, Don, was it Don?
Don, yeah.
Don, again, I don't know if a racist can change his heart. Okay, he might can change his or her actions, but I don't know if the heart changes, because if that's embedded in you when you were growing up, I mean, honestly, it's I'm a creature of habit. You know, some of these things my father taught me that I do now that I haven't changed since I was 13. Right? The day I get my hair cut, the reason I change is because my barber changes the days, but I like the same time, I like the same day as a creature of habit, right? I mean, I know that's a bad example. I'm just saying, I just don't know if you can change a racist heart, you know? I think we have prejudices. We've talked about this, that we don't, we're too
Prejudice
ashamed to
versus
me, especially
racism.
white folks. They're too ashamed to say the prejudices because they think that makes you racist. It does not.
We know
all have
all
racist
about your
prejudice.
prejudice.
Well, you do. You should. So, and we don't have enough time.
We don't have time. Again, thank you for the comments. Make sure that you guys hit our linktree/BRBD so you can connect with all our socials. Again, hit the TikTok. We're trying to get to 10,000 followers. Right now at 2,500. Plus, I make some good videos. Hopefully, Jamar in the car starts coming through with some more videos. But please think about supporting us and what we do. Thank you so much for being on the show, Joseph. I appreciate you coming on, having candid conversation with us. Make sure that you guys like this, hit that share button,
and donate.
Continue to support what it is that we do.
Absolutely. I'm Jamar Nelson.
I'm AK Kamara.
That was Joseph Banks. Appreciate you coming tonight. See y'all next week.
Peace.